Doctor, can you start now?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, shall I start?
Yes, Doctor, you can't start.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. السلام عليك أيها الإخوة والأخوات في جامعة البصرة. أشكركم جميعا. Today I am going to talk about child development. Child development is a very broad subject. It includes the development of different aspects of human being. It includes physical development, sensory motor development, social emotional development, cognitive development, and communication development. These all are the subjects of the mainstream child development theories. Within physical development, we talk about gross motor development and fine motor development. Gross motor development such as walking, and fine motor development such as picking things. Social development includes interaction, cooperation, self-confidence, sense of community. And when we talk about sensory development, we talk about perceptions, sight, touch, smell, hearing, taste, vestibular, and proprioception. And when we talk about cognitive development, we talk about problem solving, abstract thinking, learning. And in the communication aspects of development, we talk about expressive, receptive, pragmatic aspects of language, how children express themselves and how they receive the language, and how they use language pragmatically. These are all very broad aspects of child development. But for today, for this session, I choose to talk about social emotional development. And as you saw it, there are still different aspects we can talk in social emotional development. I specifically have chosen two concepts to talk about today: the concept of attachment and the concept of attention. In this session, the objectives that I have is to provide you with a background information on attachment theory and to see how attachment is developed among children, infants. And in this regard, I talk about attachment styles. And at the end of this concept, I talk about attachment and culture. We are living in different culture from all the studies that have been done about attachment. So I briefly mention some cultural differences in attachment. And then I go to talk about attention and culture, how culture affects the development of attention. These are the subjects that I am going to talk about now. Now, I just want to check my voice is okay? Everything is okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Right.
Pretty good.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We talk about attention. I think in your language, what I found is ta'alluq. Am I right? What does attachment mean? Well, attachment is an affectional tie that one individual has for another who is perceived as stronger and wiser. Features, most probably, the person we attach to, the infant attached to is the mother. And in attachment, this affectional tie persists across time. Whether today, tomorrow, or next year, this affectional tie persists, continues. And the other feature of attachment is that it involves a specific person. Although we will talk about that, it could be a different person as well, but always there is a person on the other side. And there is a wish to remain in close proximity to the person that the child is attached. He or she likes to be close to his mother, to her mother. And when the stress is felt, the child seeks security and comfort from the person. And when the attached person is leaving, distress is felt. So there is a physical closeness to the child and the attached person. When the separation happens, the child gets distress. And when the attached person, for example, the mother, is present, mother provides a safe haven for the child to be comfortable and to feel secure, and which led the child to seek out the environment. And it helps the child explore the immediate environment. So attachment is something that is very necessary for the child to live and to survive. And because of that, developmental psychologists have paid attention to these aspects of child development, and they try to answer the question that how attachment is shaped. There are different theories about how attachment is shaped. For example, Freud is one of the earliest psychologists who talk about the relationship between mother and the child. Freud emphasized the importance of this relationship, and within his psychosexual stage development, he said that oral psychosexual stage is required to make a good relationship between the child and the mother. And Freud says that when the oral psychosexual stage is satisfied, so development is healthy and is occurring appropriately. And he says that feeding is important because the child is in oral psychosexual stage. Feeding makes the attachment. On the other hand, Erikson talk about the attachment, this relationship between the child and the mother, and says that at the earliest time when the child is born, there should make a trust relationship between the child and the mother. And he proposed a stage called trust versus mistrust psychosocial stage. Within this stage, there's a good relationship between the mother and child has to happen. And when it is happen, when the mother is sensitive to child's need. And what is the child's needs? Child needs to be fed. So Erikson, like Freud, says that feeding makes the attachment. Besides that, behavioralists also, they say that feeding makes this attachment. They talk about attachment within the classical conditioning. They say that when the child is hungry, his needs should be satisfied by eating something, by feeding. Okay? Milk is the primary stimulus that the child gets, and he is fed. But who gives the milk to the child? It is the mother. So the child make a relationship between the milk and the mother, and when he or she sees the mother, she feels happiness. She feels contempt. She or he feels contempt. So the same as Freud, the same as Erikson, behavioralist says that feeding is important for making attachment because the child needs feeding, the child needs food, and the mother provides that food, so attachment is developed. But Bowlby says that attachment is something more than this. And he says that there is an attachment behavioral system innate in a child. Child is born with some abilities that leads him to make attachment to their mother. Infant cries and infant smiles and infant gets calm when he is distressed. He can be calmed with the mother. Bowlby says that this innate features cause the child to make attachment to the mother. So it is not the feeding, only the feeding that makes this attachment. And Bowlby says that this attachment behavioral system has an evolutionary purpose. Why? Because infants get safety, and infants who stayed close to their mother were less likely to be killed by predators. So mother is used as a safe haven, and the child can survive in this world. Bowlby develops this concept more, and he says that this attachment behavioral system is activated by danger or stress. When the child gets ill, or when the child gets fatigued, or when the child is hungry, or he senses a pain, he is in danger. He feels stressed. And this attachment behavioral system activates. Or maybe stress is caused by conditions of the environment, threats, distance from the mother. This makes stress, and the attachment behavioral system is activated. The child cries. How does it work? This attachment behavioral system, how does it work? The child cries. Why? Because to draw the attention of the mother. The child tracks visually the mother. You can see that the child follows the mother, reaching for the mother. He opens his hand to ask to get hugged. And he moves toward the mother or follows the mother. When the mother walks, he follows the mother. These all are the behaviors that Bowlby says is required to make attachment, and these are attachment behaviors displayed by an infant. Okay, so the next question is that who is the attachment figure? Is the mother always the attachment figure? Well, Freud Erikson and behavioralists, because they talk about the feeding, mainly the mother is the attachment figure. However, recent studies says that an infant may have multiple attachments. In that, there are multiple individuals to whom the infant directs attachment behavior. It could be mother, it could be also father, it could be older siblings. There is attachment between siblings, sisters and brothers. And even a child, an infant, can make attachment to grandparents and also to other members of the extended family, or maybe to a caregiver who consistently is caring for the child, is providing care for the child. These figures could be the attachment figure for the child. However, within this figures, there is an attachment hierarchy. Is that there is a principal attachment figure who is mainly mother or father or the caregiver, the consistent caregiver. However, the child, if the attachment figure is absent, the infant can seek comfort and security from others in this hierarchy. So the question arises here, how can these attachment figures is developed? There are so many individuals around the child: father, mother, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, grandparents, caregiver. So how come the child attached to all these figures, to all these individuals? Studies show that the time that a person spent in caring the child makes that child important, that figure important for the child, or the quality of care that is provided by that person. When the person, whether it is grandparent or whether it is the caregiver or whether it is the sister or brother, the quality of care that they provide makes the child attached to them. So they will be a safe haven for the child as well, and the child can seek comfort and security from them. Okay, the next question that arises is that why do we care about attachment? Why there should be such concern about attachment? Bowlby's started his research with British war orphans. He studied these children who lost their parents during the war, and they were living in institutions. And Bowlby showed that when infants are raised in institutional care without a stable and continuous caregiver relationships, they suffer deficits in cognitive, emotional, and social development. I have to emphasize here that Bowlby says about stable and continuous caregiver relationships. I mean, it could be that a child raised in an institutional, in an institution, but if the caregivers are stable and continuous, but they don't change from one person to another person, the suffering is less. However, when the caregivers changes frequently and there is no stability, so the attachments suffer. And when the attachment suffers, cognitions also suffer, and the child cannot develop social skills. So attachment studies says that attachment relationships are needed for normal cognitive, emotional, and social development. Studies show that attachment leads to regulation of emotional state and to behavioral control, which is very necessary for social skills and for social interactions and communications. Also, studies show that attachment relationship leads to a mental representations of relationship across the lifespan. It is interesting to know that the early attachment relationship can predict the relationships, romantic relationships in throughout the life when the child gets young. And they say, this study says that these attachment relationships in the earliest stage of the life provides a child a working models and internal working models of a relationships. That means that the child knows how to make contact with other people, and the child knows the sense of the self that the child will get from the this attachment relationship. And these feelings and senses, sense, all presents an internal working models that predicts relationships during the adulthood as well. Okay, the next question is that, well, attachment is necessary and attachment could be developed with one person or with several persons, several important persons. However, there is a question that whether all infants develop such attachment, the same attachment. After Bowlby, Mary Ainsworth starting attachment development and she developed a strange situation, test that within this strange situation, she realized that not all children develop attachment. About 70% of attachments are secured. She identified two different types of attachment: securely attached infants and insecure attached infants. And within insecure attachments, she found two types of insecure attachment: insecure avoidant and insecure resistant ambivalent. She, within her studies with a strange situation, she realized that over 70% of infants develop a secure attachment, and about 50% of the infants develop insecure avoidant attachment, and about 15% of infants develop insecure resistant or ambivalent attachment. Mary Ainsworth, continued Bowlby's work, in fact, and she did a lot of research in Uganda, and she did a lot of research in USA, Baltimore, and she used a lot of observation and the strange situation. Now I am going to explain what is this strange situation. A strange situation, infants around age 12 months to 20 months can be, can come to this experiment. The caregiver and infant are in a playroom with intermittent periods of the stranger coming and going and the caregiver coming and going. Child observed for signs of distress, attachment, and exploratory behavior. Now I stop. I want to present a clip for you. So I stopped this presentation, and I think I opened the clip which shows the strange situation. It might take a little bit, sorry, but I'm trying to get it.
But can the essential elements of home life be translated into a standard laboratory?
Okay. Okay. Stop presenting this. A window. Share. Okay.
Essential elements of home life be translated into a standard laboratory setting for controlled scientific study. After conducting extensive observations of parents and children at home, a student of Bowlby's, Mary Ainsworth, devised such a procedure, called the strange situation, which places the child under some stress. It has become the most widely used standardized way to assess the quality of a child's attachment to their caregiver. Here the researchers are recording how 14-month-old Lisa responds in this attractive but unfamiliar setting. How will she react to a stranger? What will happen when her mother leaves the room? And when she returns? It's Lisa's behavior when her mother returns, what psychologists call the reunion, that they are particularly interested in.
Most importantly is to look for the type of balance that a child strikes between an attachment need and, on the other hand, to explore the play material.
Once Lisa has settled down to play, a stranger enters the room and sits in the chair reading a magazine. After a couple of minutes, the stranger attempts to interact with Lisa. Soon after, Lisbeth gets a cue to leave the room. The stranger tries to comfort Lisa, but in vain. Lisbeth comes back into the room, and the camera records how Lisa reacts. Now the first part of the procedure is over, and Lisbeth settles Lisa down again. The stranger leaves them alone together. And soon after, Lisbeth goes too. Lisa is on her own. Her distress is plain to see. Once again, the efforts of the stranger to console Lisa are to no avail. But Lisbeth manages to calm her almost at once, and shortly afterwards the observation ends. Lisa showed outward signs of what's called secure attachment.
Okay, you watch a strange situation experiment, which is done with very young children, most likely under 20 months old. This experiment is done with these children, and what you saw is that this child was securely attached to his mother. When the mother goes out, when the child is secure, the child may cry or may not cry. Both of them is okay. But when the mother comes back, child goes toward the mother and seek closeness, proximity, and gets calm, usually. Securely attached children appear confident that their mother would meet their needs. If they hunger, they will be fed. If they get cold, they will be warmed up with putting dress. or so many other things that goes on between the child and the mother. Also, a securely attached child uses the mother as a safe base to explore the room. As you saw in this clip, when the mother was present, the child were exploring the room, playing with the toys. When the mother, when he distressed, he sought the mother, and very easily suited by the mother when distressed. When the mother hugged the child calms down and suited. The secure attachment is thought to arise from sensitive caregiver. The parent is sensitive to the and responds appropriately to the infant's needs. However, when the child is insecure, avoidant, what they show in this strange situation experiment, the avoidant child, when the mother goes out, they don't cry. And when the mother comes back, they don't follow the mother. They don't seek hug from the mother. They play around, no matter where is the mother, okay? Mary Ainsworth says that insecure, avoidant children are very independent of the mother. They did not reference the mother while exploring the room. They don't need the mother be close to them to explore the room, the environment. Showed no signs of distress when the mother left the room. Played normally with the stranger in the room, no distress. Showed little interest in the mother upon her return. When the mother returns, no care. She or he doesn't care when the mother is coming back. It seems that the mother and the stranger were equally able to comfort the infant. The insecure avoidant attachment is thought to arise from insensitive and rejecting caregiver. A caregiver that has a tendency to be unavailable in times of distress. The child has no expectation that needs will be met. This insecure avoidant style of attachment are seen among mothers who have jobs. Mothers with job more likely have children that show this insecure avoidant attachment style, because mother is not there, and the child is not expecting the mother that to satisfy his needs, to meet his needs, okay? And also with depressed mothers. With depressed mothers also, they are far from the child, reject the child most likely, and so they develop insecure avoidant attachment style. How about insecure resistant or ambivalent child? What he does in the strange situation experiment? This type of children explore the room less likely and cried more. When they come into the room with their mothers, they cry. They stick to to their mother and display intense distress when the mother left, cry a lot, avoided the stranger, show distress, fear of the stranger. She doesn't like a stranger. She goes away from the stranger. She fears from the stranger. And when the mothers return, there is ambivalence in the child. Approach the mother, but resist contacts to mother. Push the mother away, or she does not feel comfortable when the mother is coming in, or even the mother hugs him. He doesn't like it. He wants to go away from the mother. Although she cries. The mother in this situation says, "What do you want? I'm now here. Why you are crying? Why you are pushing me?" They may be attached the mother as well, and the mother is confused why he's doing that. Or maybe the insecure, resistant child show clingy behavior, stick to the mother all the time. Take the skirt of the mother, chador of the mother, but rejected the caregiver when the caregiver attempted interaction or attempted to soothe. The insecure, ambivalent attachment is thought to arise from an inconsistent response from the caregiver to their needs. Sometimes their needs are met, sometimes they are not met. You know, when the mother is depressed, when she feels okay, full of energy, she responds to the child. But when she feels loneliness, disappointment, and goes inside herself, she doesn't respond to the child. So the child is confused. Sometimes my mother responds to me and provide my needs, and the other time my mother don't care me at all. So there is a confusion within the child's mind. So she doesn't know to like the mother or to dislike the mother. She doesn't know to get suited by the mother or not suited by the mother. So this is the worst, insecure attachment style. These children will have problem a lot when they get older. There is other type of attachment, which says disorganized attachment. It is a type of insecure attachment as well, which somehow like the resistant, ambivalent children. They show disruption, not a smooth flow of behavior. They freeze, they confuse, they disoriented. These children don't have a coherent attachment strategy, and so they are in higher percentage seen in high-risk samples. When they grow up, they might be in difficulty, more likely to be in difficulty than those who have securely attached to their mothers, or even those have insecure, avoidant attachment style. However, we should know that the strange situation procedure is only with children, could be done with children aged 12 to 20 months, no less than that. And this is not a procedure that would be used clinically. For clinical evaluation, you cannot use this procedure. It can only be used in research. The other point that should be considered is that Ainsworth acknowledged that after 20 months, it is not clear what the child's behavior would indicate. Attachment behavior becomes more complicated and more difficult to assess, especially after age 3. So the strange situation procedure could be used only within this age range. The other important points about attachment theory is that it focuses on the first 18 months of life with a particular focus on 6 months to 15 months when infants are more worried around strange adults. Bowlby felt that an infant's readiness to become attached continues throughout the first year of life. I mean, the first year of life is very important. From the Bowlby's point of view, the first year of the life is very important to develop this attachment, but attachment security can change over time, and research suggests that infants can establish new attachments after the first year of life. So it is important. The recent research, Bowlby emphasized the first year of life very, very highly. So, but recent research says that, if a child is unfortunate, maybe because the mother gets sick, maybe because the mother dies away, maybe there are a lot of things that might happen for the child. So we could say that the child is unlucky and she or he will develop insecure attachment. Recent studies says no. Over the time, the security, this attachment style can change. Even a secure and insecure avoidant child can be a secure attached child. So the attachment style may change. However, the disorganized ambivalent attachment style is very difficult to change. However, there is the possibility, and always attempts should be made. Okay. The other question that is raised is attachment and culture. How about culture? I mean, in a different culture, different parents raise their children in different ways. They train their children, educate their children different ways. They expect from their children differently. So is attachment culturally based? A study says the main theories of attachment says that cultural differences are relatively minor and they focus on universals. They say that attachment is a universal phenomenon, and most children attach securely to their parents, and secured attached children develop healthy from cognition, emotional, and social skills. However, there are some other researchers says that the norms and values of a society influence the beliefs and behaviors of an individual, As a result, cultural differences in how a mother treats her infant are likely to affect the type of attachment relationship that is formed. There are studies in this regard, and they provide evidence that culture in somehow affects this attachment. One study is on attachment and culture could be studied in different ways. Some studies, the different styles of attachment, and they have seen that the proportions of attachment styles is different in different cultures. I mean, when the end force says that 70% of the children develop secure attachment and 15% develop insecure avoidant attachment, studies show that in some countries, some cultures, insecure avoidant attachment is more likely happened to children. In other studies, says that cultural differences may reflect in child rearing practices. And for example, a study on Anglo-American mothers and Puerto Rican mothers who are from South America and North America. Anglo mothers are from North America and Puerto Rico from South America. They say that Anglo mothers prefer that toddlers balance autonomy and relatedness, and they disliked clinginess. They don't like their child to stick to them. They don't like the child follow them. They like the child to be individual, to be autonomous. On the other hand, Puerto Rico mothers prefer that toddlers display respectfulness, and they disliked highly active or avoidant behaviors. Puerto Rican mothers didn't like the child be avoidant and didn't like the child if the child did not follow them. They liked children follow them. So we can see different child rearing and different values. So when the values are different, the attachment styles would be different. In Anglo mothers, maybe we see insecure, avoidant attachment more likely than Puerto Rico mothers, than among Puerto Rico mothers. Well, I present the map of the Puerto Rico. Here is the Puerto Rico, is in South America and United States, and this is the Puerto Rico, the country, as you see within this map, to see what people are we talking about the people, mothers in the United States and mothers in Puerto Rico here, okay? So there is some cultural effects in attachment styles. Okay. If you have questions so far, you may ask, or I go to concept of attention. No question? Okay, I go to attention. The subject of attention, al-intibah, I think. Am I right? Okay. Attention. Shall I continue? Unfortunately, I cannot hear you, none of you. Okay. We talked about attachment. Now we are going to talk about attention. 15 years ago, psychologist Barbara Rogoff had a simple experiment. They wanted to see how well kids pay attention if they don't have to. You know, one of the concerns that I think Zainab wants to talk, but I cannot hear you, Zainab. Okay. So I cannot hear you. So one of the concerns that parents have over their children is that their children don't pay attention enough to the job they are doing. They want their children to be more focused, more attended to the job, to the task that they have on their hand. Okay, this is a very problem that children have, and mothers have noticed that. Barbara Rogoff bring two kids between the ages of 5 to 11 years into a room and have them sit at two tables. Then they had a research assistant teach one of the kids how to assemble a toy. The other kid was told to wait. Rogoff says they would tell the second child, you can sit over here, and in a few minutes you will have a turn to make this origami jumping mouse, a different task altogether. Rogoff wanted to see what the waiting child did. Would she pay attention to the research assistant, or she wasted time and fooled around? Rogoff ran this experiment on about 80 kids with two different backgrounds, white middle-class children from California and from Maya children from Guatemala, whom she had been studying for years. The difference they saw okay, now I want you to show who they studied. They studied Maya children from Guatemala here in this side of the world, in this spot of the world, and children from California in United States. They studied these two groups of children on this experiment. Okay? They saw that many of the American kids tired in their chairs and stared at the floor or looked around the room at the posters. One little boy started making explosive noises, pretending a toy on the table was a bomb. He was throwing his hands into the air and saying it's going to explode. In contrast, the Mayan children were more likely to pay attention. Some of them sat perfectly still in the chair, staring at the instructor. The Maya kids showed sustained attention about 2/3 of the time. Rogov concluded that the American kids pay attention only half of the time. As you can see in this American kids, in this experiment, American kids did not pay attention as much as Maya kids did pay attention. You can see this figure here. This is for California kids. Those who paid attention were less than 50% of the time, and the Mayan kids, they pay attention over 60-70% of the time. So the Mayan kids did better in this task than American children. So why such different results happens? Maya kids are Rogov says that Maya kids are encouraged very early on to pay attention to what their family is doing, so they can learn how to do chores and work collaborative with their family. Rogov think about this problem, and they think that these children have something that many American kids don't have it. So they went to study further. Before that, they started to answer this question: what is attention? There is a growing concern, as I said, that the attention span of kids is declining. I don't know whether you are familiar with continuous performance tasks, CPT, and go-no-go tasks. These are the tasks that children, that the attentional span of kids is measured. Attention is a tricky brain function, and attention appears to be in different parts of the brain, have to communicate and interact with each other when we pay attention. I mean, different parts of the brain have to communicate and interact with each other when we pay attention. So a standard test is to measure how well people can focus and how this attention has been developed. Rogov, for this, brought people in the lab and asked them a computerized task which counts how many times their attention lapses. For instance, a person is shown a series of images on the screen. Researcher tells the person to press a button every time a picture of a city pops up. So we show them a bunch of city images, and then they were asked to press the button as city after city passes on the scene. Then all of a sudden there is a mountain scene, and the goal is to stop pressing. This is a kind of go no go task. If your brain wanders, you will make a mistake and accidentally press the button. The more mistakes you make like this, the worse your ability is to pay attention. Research says that. Rogoff, interestingly, changed this experiment. Before start the experiment, they told the kids, if you do better on the task, it would end sooner, and you can get out the lab sooner. And they, in other words, the volunteers, the kids, were given more motivation to pay attention. The results were shocking. The extra motivation increased the person's ability to sustain attention by more than 50%. The size of this effect was very large, very huge. The researchers could even see changes in how the brain worked when people were motivated. So Rogoff says that the motivation can be just as important as their innate ability to pay attention. If we don't measure how motivated a person is, the same as the computerized task that we do usually with children, then we may not be measuring their true capacity to pay attention. Rogoff says that one of the things we have realized is that it is hard to separate motivation from sustained attention. If we are why such different results happened for kids in Maya and kids in California. Rogoff went to Maya and observed children and observed the families there. They saw that children, Maya kids, are encouraged very early on to pay attention. They are asked to do chores, and they are asked to collaborate with other families, with the other family members. And the other thing that Rogoff paid attention and realized was that freedom. They said that the Mayan kids have something that many American kids missed out, an enormous amount of freedom. The freedom to largely choose what they do, where they go, whom they do it with. So that means they also have the freedom to control what they pay attention to. Even the little 4-year-old has the freedom to leave the house by herself and to go and buy some eggs or tomatoes for lunch for the family, and they actually know the way to go to shop, and they know how to stay out of traffic. However, the kids in America is just not playing around the yard, and they are still getting work done. The Mayan children, they are still getting work done. They go to a school, they do several after-school activities and many chores. And the oldest girl did the dishes even though no one asked her to do, and she helped take care of her little sisters. This all happens in the Mayan kids' life. As you can see in this picture, Gelmi, this girl, 9 years old, and Alex, 4 years old, climbing trees in the backyard of their family home in the Yucatan Peninsula. Is in Guatemala. Okay, so children freely play around, as well as doing a lot of homework and a lot of chores for their family. The parents feel very strongly that every child knows best what they want, and that goals can be achieved only when a child wants it. When the child wants it, the goals can be achieved. Rogoff says that it may be the case that some American children give up control of their attention when it is always managed by an adult. So one of the most important ingredients for motivating kids is autonomy. To do something with this full sense of willingness and choice. Many studies have shown that when teachers foster autonomy, it stimulates kids' motivation to learn, tackle challenges, and pay attention. But in the last few decades, some parts of our culture have turned in other direction. They have started taking autonomy away from kids, especially in some schools. One of the things that American school system is doing is making it more and more controlling rather than supporting. And this lack of autonomy in a school to pay attention. This is what Rogoff finds, and this is what Rogoff suggests. So all of the high stakes tests are having negative consequences on the motivation, the attention, and the learning of our children. Now, many parents in the US can't go full on like Maya to motivate kids. Actually, the modern life doesn't permit us to leave children on the street alone, or to do all the things that they want to do. It is often not practical, or even is not safe. So to give kids that much autonomy in many places, for instance, but the parents should do in a way, I mean, to give them some autonomy. For example, Rogoff says that you can ask your child, what would you do if you didn't have to do anything else? Then you start to see what actually motivates them and what they want to engage their cognitive resources in when no one tells them what they have to do. then create a space in their schedule for this activity. Well, for my kids, for my own kids, I've been taking that this activity will be like her passion, and it's the activity I should be fostering. When a kid has a passion or a desire to do something, it is golden for the child. It is something that will bring them joy and hone their ability to pay attention. Thank you. شكرا لكم على انتباهكم. This is all I talk about attachment and talk about attention, and a little bit talk about the cultural differences that this may affect on the development of attachment and the development of attention. Okay. I am finished now. If you have a question.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation in this session. I hope that you enjoyed that. It has been great being with you.
Thank you, Dr. Zahra. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your invitation.
طلاب اكو واحد عنده سؤال للدكتورة يحب يسأله.
لا دكتور شكرا واضح.
Okay, if there is any question, Mr.
No, sorry, Doctor. No, any question?
No question? Okay, no problem.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for you, Doctor.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
في أمان الله.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. في
Assalamu
أمان الله.
alaikum. Rahmatullah wa barakatuh.